started. Yes, and I am very pleased to be able to introduce Lame Maatla Kenalemang-Palm from the University of Örebro, who is a senior lecturer in media and communication studies, working on discourses of aging and gender in advertising media, and that is also what she's going to talk about today, Aging and Beauty, a critical analysis of discourses of agelessness and anti-aging marketing. So a very warm welcome to you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I just want to add that I also work at Stockholm University, so my slide might say something else. And thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. I'll just share my screen.
We can see it. That's all good. Thank you.
Okay. So why is it important to study media representations of older people? Well, as we know, the world is currently experiencing growth in the number and proportion of older people in the population. And this demographic shift is accelerating more rapidly in developed countries compared to developing countries. According to United Nations estimates, by 2050, 1 in 6 people will be aged 65 years or older, a majority of whom will be women, who already account for 55% of the global population aged 65 years or over. And naturally, discussions surrounding population aging have become the focal point of many social and political debates in most Western countries. And on one level, there are increasing concerns over the Great Tsunami or Silver Tsunami, where older people are positioned in the media as a societal and economic threat that profits at the expense of younger generations. And this has raised concerns over the implications for the functioning of welfare and pension systems and how to respond to, of course, health and long-term care needs. Subsequently, preparing for an aging population is prioritized on the political agenda of most European states. The European Union, for example, has taken the initiative to inject large sums of money into research that addresses challenges of the aging population. And these challenges are addressed through the development of policies such as active aging, healthy aging, or what Rowe and Kahn call successful aging. So what is successful aging? According to the Rowe and Kahn 3-factor model of successful aging, presented here, the discourse of successful aging is conceptualized as the avoidance of disease and disability, maintenance of high physical and cognitive function, as well as sustained engagement in social and productive activities. The area in which they overlap there indicates successful aging. Rowe and Kahn's model of successful aging has been heavily criticized by various scholars, and the main critiques of successful aging can be summarized within 3 generalized areas. That is homogenization, healthism, as well as responsibilization. First, successful aging encourages the homogenization of ageist discourses and unattainable ideals of success that not all people can live up to. The model also appears to promote the idea that older people should maintain the qualities of youth for as long as possible. The model, however, does not take into account the lifelong inequalities and different opportunities for different groups of people in order to age successfully. For instance, historically, systems of domination such as racism in the US meant that Black women and Black people in general were denied access to education, work, and other opportunities. Black women were also often employed as domestic workers or other lower paying jobs, causing several disparities between white women and women of color. And this meant that women of racial and ethnic minority groups were most likely to enter old age in poorer health particularly due to a lack of financial resources that limit their access to healthcare, and hence reducing their capacity to age successfully. Second, successful aging supports the ideology of helplessness introduced by Thorpe in 2006. This is a concept used to describe an individualized version of health that encourages the individual to take responsibility for their own health. And this perspective emphasizes individual lifestyle practices such as diet and exercise to prevent decline and disability. Such a focus, however, shifts responsibility for health from the public sector to individuals and families, while constructing later life circumstances as the culmination of individual decision-making. And as some scholars argue, for example, Anderson Reed, the strong emphasis on health and the independence may generate a new form of ageism, in which the generalized fear of aging is replaced by fear of aging with disability, and which dependent older people suffer from discrimination. Third and lastly, successful aging supports a dominant ideology of responsibilization that increasingly addresses people as actors who understand and enact their lives in terms of choice. And as Rowan Kahn notes, successful aging can be attained through individual choice and effort. The autonomous self is thus expected to act and make the right choices through an appeal to free will that promotes active citizenship and self-governance in a way that aligns with the values and aims of successful aging. While heavily criticized, the Rowan Kahn's model or understanding of successful aging is said to better fit with the current aging generation, who are often viewed as healthier and wealthier, and hence seem to have more consumerist resources that enable them to live longer and more active lives. In the literature, this has been dubbed the grey market, or sometimes silver market, which is aimed at consumers aged 50 years and above, giving rise to what Katz calls a commercialized retirement culture. This concept of a commercialized retirement culture draws on the work of Gilliard and Hicks, who uses it to describe boomers as new, empowered, and unrestricted in terms of class, age, and physical change. And in this sense, successful aging fosters the idea that older people can be active, productive, and autonomous. Neoliberal consumerist terms that highly correspond with youth and midlife. So in a consumer context, successful aging ultimately translates into not aging, not being old, or at the very least, not looking old, because constructions of old age contain little that is positive. Successful aging in this sense presupposes agelessness, which some critics refer to as a denied age, and that it views later life as a continuation of midlife. Advertisements align themselves correspondingly with this notion of agelessness and have begun to promote the idea that older people can foster a healthy, positive self-image. And as a result, advertisements tend to depict older people who have dynamic lifestyles and who look relatively happy, healthy, and youthful, or in loose terms, the eternally youthful seniors. These eternally youthful seniors constitute an important market segment for anti-aging products and services, such as cosmetics and beauty products. Consequently, in recent years, there has been a significant increase in positive representations of older people in advertising and marketing discourses, mainly aimed at women aged 50 years and above. Such positive imagery stands in stark contrast to the often negative representations of older people as frail, infirm, unproductive, dependent, and even as a burden to society. So these negative views on older people lead several scholars to criticize the media for reinforcing ageism, which is here appropriately defined as the stereotyping, prejudicing, and or discrimination of people or group of people based on their chronological age. Many feminist media scholars have shown that gender plays a large part in older people's visibility in the media, as most mainstream media seem to signal that older people, especially women, are not newsworthy, interesting, or desirable. And these scholars began to think of this as a form of gender ageism, which is understood as the dominance of patriarchal norms combined with the preoccupation of youth that results in a faster deterioration of women's status compared to that of men. In 1972, this was dubbed, or Susan Sontag dubbed this as a double standard of aging, in which the loss of good, that is, youthful looks associated with aging, are often related to women than men. And this is because women's value in society is more commonly rooted in their physical appearance and sexual attractiveness than men's. Women, as she argued, were thus held to narrower and more stringent standards related to the look of aging, which are tied to a youthful and sexual ideal of beauty, just for the normal changes that aging drives to the human body and face. And in my dissertation, I argue that this patriarchal ideal of beauty can be related to discourses about successful aging and its strong focus on the dominant ideology of responsibilization. As Gilead and Higgs highlight, for example, the aging body is realized, amongst other things, through routines of self-care. Examples of these embodied practices of self-care include the recent rise in research on skin care targeting older people. As such, it seems reasonable to expect advertisements to promote anti-aging products as solutions to age-related problems. The purchase and use of these products is often framed in the advertisement text as a choice. The idea of choice here relates to neoliberal ideas of self-responsibility and self-care that inform successful aging, and parallel to the societal or cultural expectations of individual responsibility and effort, wherein women are asked to monitor, manage, and discipline themselves. As some feminist studies argue, this focus on the self encourages women, old and young alike, to see themselves as flawed and in need of constant self-transformation. Women are thereby presented as entrepreneurial and responsible subjects who are active, rational, and calculated, and whose moral autonomy is measured by the capacity of self, that is, the ability to provide for their own needs and service their own ambitions. There are several examples of cosmetic advertisements that stress self-care practices for older women. Those that explicitly focus on age or aging well include the Neil Yard Remedies Age Well Revolution campaign, the L'Oreal Age Perfect campaign, as well as the Dove hashtag #BeautyBias campaign. However, ads such as the MAC What's Your Thing campaign, as well as the Clarins Beautiful at Every Age, do not explicitly focus on age, but they do not ignore it either. Such advertisements, as we will see, stress the importance of combating and concealing signs of aging, thus encouraging consumers to continually attempt to control age-related problems. And in this sense, by utilizing aging, such advertisements treat aging as a disease that can be cured through the purchase of anti-aging products, pathologizing the aging body and face by suggesting that the appearance of aging is undesirable. Let's have a look at this short 2-minute video from the Neil Yard campaign, whose mission is to revolutionize the way that aging is portrayed in society. And in this video, we get to hear the perspectives of ordinary, or as they refer to them, inspirational women, on what it means for them to age well.
we want to inspire women as much as inspire us.
So in this video, for these women, aging well means, for example, embracing aging, living well, being playful, being positive and confident, and that age is simply not important. But the statement that stood out for me most in this video is the one made by the co-owner of neoliberal, who states the age well revolution is about aging well. And what we want is like women feel excited about being the best versions of themselves. And here, the idea of being the best version of yourself can be linked to the ideology of neoliberalism, which is increasingly promoted as an effective and entrepreneurial mode of subjectivity, wherein individuals, such as the women in this video, are constructed as entrepreneurs of their own lives, managing choices within highly volatile and taking individual responsibility for their failures. Again, in my dissertation, I show the ways in which advertisements are central to this construction of the entrepreneurial and responsibilized subject who is invested in transforming the self. And as Nicholas Rose states, for example, this subject does not need to be governed by others, but will govern herself, foster herself, and care for herself. In this video, for example, the women are not governed or subjected by external societal pressure that dictate that youth is beauty, but rather are asked here to embrace being older. And given that the overall aim of neoliberal is to ultimately sell products, working on and perfecting the body, also conceptualized as aesthetic labor, and by extension the face, is a way for individuals to control and show responsibility for their own lives if they choose to do so. So here, women are instead encouraged to constantly manage their appearances in order to produce their best and most successful self. You can take another look at another example, and this is from the L'Oreal Paris Age Perfect campaign, which I wrote a paper about, published in Aging in Society. And the Age Perfect campaign aims to celebrate older women through a range of anti-aging products targeted at mature women aged 55 plus. And the campaign features older female celebrities such as Jane Fonda, Helen Mirren, Juliana Moore, Vanessa Williams, and Isabella Adjani. And in the latest marketing for age-perfect products, as we see in this image, L'Oreal UK uses the image of actress and brand ambassador of L'Oreal, Helen Mirren, as the face of the campaign. And my aim here today is to demonstrate how older women are encouraged, such as to engage in forms of bodily discipline, as well as self-surveillance. So on the webpage, we're met with the bolded text, "We look great for our age. Who's counting? We're age perfect." Older women are often told that they look good for their age, which is a way to infer that despite their age, they still look attractive. So here, striking out the words "for our age" is a way for L'Oreal to communicate to the reader that beauty is and should not be subjected to age. It is also a way for them to highlight the fact that older women, like their younger counterparts, are beautiful as well. The statement hence challenges societal ideas of what it means to be beautiful, which, as the literature indicates, is equivalent to being young, and how factors such as age factor into how we perceive person's beauty. And here, at first glance, age is not considered to be an issue. L'Oreal, in this case, are not counting, but just want to show how perfect women are aging as signified through the use of the models on the page. If we look carefully below the image, there is a text that reads 50 plus skincare hub, which, according to the description, helps female consumers to find their most effective at-home skin. So here the company states that aging is not just cost to youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength. L'Oreal Paris Age Perfect believes that age is just a number and we look great. So in this statement, the cosmetic company wants to emphasize that growing older should be seen as a new opportunity and a strength. Here, however, it is unclear about what new opportunities and strengths aging brings into this context, but it can be seen as a way to empower women to see the positive aspect of aging. And paradoxically, however, when clicking through the different skincare ranges they offer, the textual choices used by the company suggest otherwise. In most product descriptions, L'Oreal uses verbs such as renew, repair, reactivate, refortify, recushion. And although the verb's roots are not explicitly mentioned in the text, such words and the etymological associations with things that are about to implies that the process of aging is something that can and should be resisted. If we have a look at this example, it is in the paper published in Aging and Society. We see here the ways in which women are encouraged through these ads to inform or engage in forms of bodily discipline and self-surveillance. So a common strategy employed in these advertisements is called a problem-solution model. Advertisers use this model, for example, to establish that aging skin is a problem and that the advertised product is the solution. And here, the problem highlighted is often some element related to the visible appearance of signs of aging. As seen here, the text describes what appears as the unwanted consequences of becoming older and includes negatively evaluated words to construct the appearance of the aging female face. So here the text refers to skin as fragile, dry, thin, gray, and dull, and less radiant. This suggests the problematic nature of the appearance of aging, and describing the skin using words such as gray, dull, and less radiant, and their associations of paleness, which is often a sign of bad health, as well as using words such as fragile, dry, and thin, and their associations with the weakening of the aging body, which are often associated with age stereotypes about older people, becomes a way for L'Oreal to promote not only fear about aging, but also pathologize by suggesting that the aging body is undesirable. So subsequently, the underlying idea is that the older clinical face is unwatchable, and solutions must be found to counter or conceal visible signs of aging. And in this way, the aging female face is treated as something that can be cured through the purchase of anti-aging products. As we see in this ad, for example, the products contain certain references to science, and such ads claim to contain as well health promoting properties that help cure aging. The use of scientific references there is a way for the company to promote the effectiveness of their products through people's trust in science. And the use of science in these ads also lent a moral authority to owners by asking them not to ignore the problems associated with their aging skin and assume responsibility for their well-being by taking the necessary preventative action. So in this way, these ads suggest that good health in later life is fully the choice and responsibility of the individual, such that older women, for example, who don't use these cosmetics for whatever reason, are deemed as unhealthy, irresponsible, and immoral failed citizens who lack self-control. But as expected, the use of the products is presented such as a positive and empowering choice, through which older women are granted agency to do something about their aging appearance. Here we see in this example that they use lexical choices such as rejuvenate, luxurious, sumptuous, beautiful, and youthful to positively construct the appearance of aging in order to emphasize how older women's skin looks or feels after using the anti-aging products. Again, here the verb's roots are not explicitly mentioned in the text. But, for instance, the word rejuvenate in this example and its association with things that have lost their youth implies that the process of aging is something that can and should be resisted. So here, older women are persuaded to assume responsibility for controlling or reversing visible signs of aging, specifically through the purchase and use of the advertised corrective solution, if they want to age gracefully, which here implies looking youthful and hence beautiful, and in a similar manner to the way in which the model, Iran, appears to be in the ad, who, despite her age, still looks youthful. So furthermore, if we take the use of the adjective sumptuous, this indicates the potential for pleasure. The mere sound of sumptuous, the seductive hiss of the S sound, creates an erotic feel. And here, for example, together with the revealed décolletage, her slightly touching her neck, implies that the model that is physically equipped to seduce the viewer, awakening his or her sexual desires and as a direct indication of a female beauty. So based on the campaign's references to women's empowerment, these ads thus suggest that using cosmetics becomes a way for women to dictate their lives and express themselves, which essentially symbolizes their power and voice. And these associations are very troubling when we recall that the function of these cosmetics is to erase visible signs of aging, suggesting that the appearance of old age connotes both a lack of power as well as voice. So this connotation is reinforced by the campaign's explicit depiction of aging gracefully or aging successfully as about removing wrinkles, when in effect it suggests that the way to age gracefully is to look as though one has not aged at all, while describing how skin looks after using the products. This fear, as I show more clearly in my work, is not simply about looking old, but more complicatedly about looking attractive. And such a discourse supposedly suggests that the use of anti-aging products, such as those advertised here, are not only a legitimate but also necessary part of maintaining physical attractiveness, And women in these cases are continuously urged to maintain the physical attractiveness, which is tied to a youthful and sexualized ideal beauty within society. And for women who need help analyzing their skin or youthfulness of their skin, several cosmetic companies, including L'Oreal, have developed self-tracking and self-monitoring cosmetic or beauty apps. So what are beauty apps? Well, beauty apps have been defined by Ideas and Gill as aesthetic self-tracking and modifying devices, which are used to analyze, rate, evaluate, monitor, or enhance women's facial appearances. And from a feminist perspective, these apps can be said to facilitate a form of beauty surveillance that encourages women to engage in practices of self-scrutiny and self-modification. And such practices intensify aesthetic labor, which is basically a way to encourage women to engage in different forms of beauty and bodywork practices in order to manage and transform their appearances. So there are several broad categories of beauty apps. In my work, together with a colleague, Professor Erickson, we situate the cosmetic apps within the surveillance app category. These surveillance apps claim to scan the face for flaws and damage and come with promises to help women fix their skin-related problems. Examples of these apps include the L'Oreal Skin Genius app, the Neutrogena's Skin 360, the Clinical Reality, Estée Lauder virtual skin analysis, the Biotherm Skin Age, and here we also have the Vichy Skin Consult AI, as well as the Lancome Consult AI as well. So to scan the face for flaws, users can do so through a website or an app where they submit selfies of their bare face in order to initiate this face scanning procedure. So to start with, for example, through the names and accompanying text of these apps, they are conveyed as though their evaluations are based on advanced expertise and technology. So they use names such as Skin Diagnosis, Skin Consult AI, and thus carry wide-ranging claims regarding the progression of the technology as well as its complexity. And furthermore, these apps are presented with catchy buzzwords or phrases that carry obvious connotations to science and high technology, including such as powered by advanced AI, breakthrough technology, or powerful skin aging algorithms. So how do these apps work? What processes are involved in this face scanning procedure? Let's take a closer look at the skin analysis tool offered by Neutrogena, for example. So generally across all apps, the face scanning procedure is generally described as a three-step process. Step one is that the user scans their face, followed by step two, where the users tell the app a little bit about their skin as well as their routines. And step three, they get a review of their personalized results. So as we see here, the first step I did was I scanned my face through the 360-degree selfies. And here I got further instructions in order to pull my hair back, remove anything that hides the skin, and sit in a well-lit area for the scan, relax, do not smile, and make sure that my face was clean of any products. So the application here had a built-in camera that instructed me on how to position my face. First, you look straight ahead into the camera, then you look left, and then you look right. And this overall gives the feeling of a full 360 scan of the face. And this differs from other apps whereby you can just simply upload any selfies of themselves. In terms of adding personal data, they asked me about my age, my skin type, as well as questions about how much water do I drink per day, dietary questions, and so forth. And thereafter, I submitted the results in order to get suggestions on how to improve my skin. As one of the apps, I think this is from L'Oreal, shows, this process is described as a very simple and fast procedure, whereby users are just invited to transform their skin with just one selfie, which in itself is also an odd statement. So thereafter, step 3, users get a summary of how they scored. Here, we see that I got a 10-point score of how well or badly my skin appears to be in 6 different areas of the skin. And this included, or the attributes here included clear skin, dark circles, wrinkles, fine lines, smoothness, as well as dark spots. And this is presented at very exact measures on a scale from 1 to 10, but using decimals, which again signifies exactness. But with the colored in pastel nuances, it nevertheless comes across as a bit playful. So in the middle of the circle, right there, this is the average score of how well I have scored out of the different areas. And when you click on each of these colored sections, you don't get details, but rather your score out of 10. For here, for example, for clear skin, I scored 9 out of 10. So this score is first in a colored-coded circular section that gives an impression of a pie chart or a radical circular graph, leading thoughts to science. And the different sections of the pie chart are further divided into bars that show the strength of each skin area. And this also, again, gives an impression of a bar chart, which also further gives an impression of mathematical precision as well as statistics, which can be used to highlight risks and fears associated with visible signs of aging, even though this is never explicitly mentioned. The bars, however, do not provide any concrete information. So when you scroll down the page, right about here, you get a breakdown of the score. 1 to 4.9 is okay, 5 to 7.9 is good, and 8 to 10 is great. If we look at that. So here, under every area, you can get a more summary of how you have scored and a very, very brief description of what the problems with your skin appears to be. The text, however, does not give any more in-depth analysis of these measures. And this sort of quantification of the face is part of an intensified surveillance of women's bodies and is now taking basically what appears to be an intensified scrutiny of the female face to examine pores, bumps, minimal sun damage, which are facilitated by the supposed magnification of the highlighted areas of focus. So as we see here, women's faces are fragmented and their facial appearance is represented as being under a form of amplified or magnified scrutiny using numbers. And more about this, I think, could be read in our paper, which is also now published. So this process of transformation from the selfie and metric assessing the fragmented facial areas is what we define in the paper as the metricization of the female face. It is a process of establishing and using metrics to be able to measure distinct aspects of the female face. And based on the metrics, the apps point out what parts of the face are to be considered as problematic and in need of special attention, but also boost the consumer's confidence by identifying the areas where they're doing well. And these measurements and the way they're presented with amplified facial detail can provide consumers with a feeling of individual self-empowerment and motivation to commit to skin aging practices. So the flaws that are identified are not explicitly attributed to aging, but rather to a lack of something. For example, a lack of collagen, which the products contain and can thus be corrected. So here the user is then presented with a personalized skincare routine of what products are most beneficial for their skin. And this personalized routine can be automatically selected for the users based on how they scored. And the personalized advice on skincare routines is, of course, in all investigative cases to apply the right products that are based on the recommendations and come with a set or attached set of instructions. So all of this, we argue, is underpinned by a neoliberal mentality of self-management and self-improvement linked to the idea of managing oneself and one's look. The female consumer is thus addressed as an individual having the agentic power to instantly manage her skin-related problems. But how is it for men? Oh, before that, let's have a quick summary. So in summary, we could say that on the one hand, these apps seem to create a discourse of empowerment that appears to give women autonomous choices that they use to manage their lives. But on the other hand, women tend to be subjected to patriarchal standards of beauty, which require them to constantly work and improve themselves. And such scrutiny and surveillance of the face can be seen as what I conceptualize in my doctoral dissertation as a neoliberal self-governing gaze that works to reinscribe hegemonic patriarchal standards of beauty. I use the term neoliberal self-objectifying gaze to show the ways in which old women internalize patriarchal standards of beauty as a mirror that they use to surveil and govern themselves, even at later stages of life. So the cosmetic app technologies change the way in which older female consumers are invited to learn about and to consider their facial appearances. An intense form of surveillance, reflective again of a neoliberal culture. So this metricization is a new tool for aesthetic labor, which seemingly empowers women to make choices on what appears as a scientific and highly technologized rationality, and follows the notion of if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. Women's self-improvement thus becomes what Wolf would describe as a technological project. Now, very briefly, I won't go much into this so that we save time for discussion. But I was just going to say, in terms of men are said to get better with age. They are, however, products that offer men an anti-aging routine, which is just meant so that their skin keeps up with their active lifestyle as connoted through the ads. And I've also written a paper of this, so I will just include this at the end so that we don't need to go into it. But I would like to add my presentation by asking the audience, what does aging well or aging perfectly mean to them? Thank you for your attention.